Welcome to Doing It My Way by Beata Matras, a podcast about project and product management, communication, brand, and IT. All these topics will definitely improve and have a positive impact on your career. So join me today, subscribe, and expect a new episode every week. Thank you. Today I'm joined by Konrad Bujak, a product leader, speaker, and innovative thinker in the realm of generative AI and product lifecycle management. Konrad has crafted products at companies like Cisco and AppDynamics, and now he brings his expertise to our discussion on the synergy between AI and product management. Beyond tech world, Konrad owns a vineyard in Poland, adding a unique flavor to his professional pursuits. Welcome, Konrad. It's great to have you here.
Great. Thanks very much for the invitation, Beata.
So, Konrad, to kick off, could you share with the listeners a bit about your journey and what influenced your path to AI and product management?
I'd say I've been always interested in data and numbers. So I started actually my journey in IT around high school. So I was one of those people who had really programming in high school. Now, once I started to meet with people, in university, they were like, what? How is it possible? And at that time, I found my interest in the data. Obviously, it was times where we were coding inside Excel using Visual Basic, but it was a good start for me. Then I went into university and I was interested in robotic nanotechnology. And at some point, I've got my hands on AI. As for AI, not the one we will talk most probably today, but rather like recommendation systems, prediction systems, classifiers. So I would say previous era of AI that's still with us because we are still watching Netflix, and believe me, it's full of AI. And yeah, at that time I took legendary course from NG in machine learning on Coursera. By the way, it's no longer there. I've tried to check it. It's changed its name probably a few times. And yeah, at that time I also worked with IoT, which was generating plenty full of data. I've worked at Contact.io, a startup here from Poland. By the way, they finished their round this year. So congratulations, guys. And yeah, I think that's what kicked my career in general.
Okay, that's an interesting story. I love listening to stories of people who like what brought them to the point they are right now in. And when we've met, we've also started to talk about something that interested me, which is Shape Up. And to be honest, before talking to you, I've never heard about the Shape Up methodology. And I think many of our listeners may not be familiar with this approach, with this Shape Up methodology. Could you explain its core principles and how it differs from traditional agile practices?
Just one point. Remember, it's not a methodology that will work for everyone, everywhere. There's no like gold standard for it. Like Marty Kagan says, there's no one way to do great product. So Shape Up was something that actually opened my eyes. So usually when we think about Scrum, when we think about Agile or Kanban as a tool, we have in mind following the rules. And first thing with Shape Up is that we follow rather principles than rules. So what it gives us? It gives us, there's this famous quote, stop running in circles. And with Shape Up, you are able to lower your time to deliver from 6 months to 6 weeks. So we kind of stop prolonging the deadlines. We stop thinking about the scope as something that's unchangeable. What we think what's unchangeable is the date. So if we agreed that we are gonna release on 12th June, that's the date. Now what we need to do is hammer the scope. So we are cutting down the pieces of the scope, ultimately having minimum likable product that we deliver. Obviously, sometimes we are good in estimations and we deliver what we expected, but I think people who are listening to us already know that's not always the truth. And there are two more things that really interested me with ShapeUp. First of all, it was a pitch document. So pitch document, you could think about it like an maybe not elevator pitch because it's like 6 pages. So not necessarily something you're gonna read inside an elevator, but it's like a product requirement document connected with definition of done and definition of ready. It's like your one central piece telling you what we are going to build. And it's useful for your stakeholders, sales teams, support teams, developers. We put there as much details as we can. So-called meat. Yeah. So we put there the details, decisions. Aside that, obviously, we still have Figma, we have Jira, GitHub projects, Mondays, all other tools. But this is one ultimate document. It could be even a Notion. Honestly, I've seen different structures of it. But it aligns us to one place that if something is in this document, this is what we agreed on. And this is what we start on during our kickoff of a project. And this document, obviously, it's not created by product people. It's created by the team of product and engineering. So we, as both our departments, work on this together. So there needs to be at least engineering leader or engineering manager here committing to those high level things. Like we've agreed that we'll build, for example, new pop-up generator, and this high-level stakeholder of engineering needs to commit to this in the end, because the second thing, what interests me with ShapeUp is that once engineering team or product team is into delivery, they are not to be disturbed. So if suddenly you have urgent customer, unless this customer is 90% of your revenue, then you don't commit to other things. You are committed to delivering on the time. So those people are no longer disturbed. Obviously, it's not like you do 6 weeks of development. We give them breaks, yeah. But those things really change approach. First of all, I've seen many times that the sprint backlog or even the sprint in Jira was growing over the week because suddenly there are so urgent requests which are not really urgent, and this approach really helps to focus the developers on what's important, so they are in their knee deep with this project. So it's not like they've started to work or they've went into their creative side of mind and suddenly they need to change.
Okay, so it sounds like ShapeUp helps reduce the time of delivery of minimum likable product, as you mentioned. And there is also this one source of truth, which is pitch document created by the team of engineers, also product, also stakeholders, yes?
I would say there's no rule, as I mentioned. I've been trying different approaches, and each company that I've tried ShapeUp with has different implementation. I mean, principles are the same. We have pitch documents, we have other documents. I've had in one company, we've modified the pitch document so that we've added multiple more fields to this, like metrics, so specific metrics that we want to track since the day 1 or since the day 30 after the release. And at the same point, I've had pitches where stakeholders were helping in building it. That's true. And I had pitches where mostly 2 people built the whole pitch.
Okay. And how do you choose those people who should build that document? I mean, is it, for example, a CEO of the company, or who is like the decision maker in case of who should create this document? So from your perspective, what is like the most beneficial when we involve like specific people into this pitch document creation?
That's a very good question. So if you have head of product leader, product director, that's the person who would choose it. If you don't, then you could start with the most senior product person and the most senior engineering person. This is a good start. And then if they are not the right people to do it, they will be able to find you the people who will do it. Because like in ShapeUp, it's actually focused around delivering, small features, small-ish, because 6 weeks you can really do marvelous things if the team is right. But it's about like still delivering. So it's kind of like a project, small projects. And in here, you need to have people who are the best or the most, I would say, familiar with the domain of your product. So if we, for example, let's go back to the pop-up creator, because most of us should know already what's the pop-up. That's something that pops you on a browser and asks you to sign into subscription or other things. Now, let's say you've developed the first iteration of your pop-up editor, and you were true to assume that you will come back to it. And now you build the second iteration. The good pick would be the first product person who worked on the first edition of this pop-up generator, or other people, because now this person could be in a different department. Maybe they are right now in sales, maybe they are right now in engineering. I've seen very frequently people migrate from engineering to product, and the other way around. I've seen also people from sales becoming product oriented. So there might be in the different places in the organization, but there would be the natural picks because they are the most familiar with what's been built. Unless you already had ShapeUp, because then you have your pitch document, and your pitch document should tell you who was engaged within this delivery of the previous edition. And you can obviously look there, ask them some questions. And by the way, it's a good test how the pitch documents are working for you. Because if you read this pitch document and you have no clue, then you know that something needs to be changed in the structure.
Yeah, definitely. One more question around this shape of approach, because I don't see where the users or where like clients are placed here. Like, how do you interact with the clients, with the users? How do you gather feedback? How does it work there?
So before we start delivering what we've agreed, we need to make this pitch document. And that's one of the first moments when you interact with the customers, is making your research. It's not necessarily double diamond. There are different methodologies we could pick up here. Sometimes you cut corners by talking with partners who are distributed across, for example, markets, and let's say CEE market, and you have one partner for CEE, and instead of talking to 5 customers, you talk to him or her who has 100 or 1,000 peers. And it depends on the feature, because there are also projects within ShapeUp where you use for your own internal stakeholders. So it narrows down what's a little bit your requirements, what's or like objective for this quarter, this half of the year, this year. And once you start your research, depending also what's the stage where you are with this feature, with this product, it might be different approach to talking to users. I'm actually a fan of talking to at least 5 or 10 always. It gives you a good amount of feedback, and you should already see some repetitive feedbacks from your customers.
Okay. But like blocking, let's say, these 6 weeks of work and not changing the pitch document, it helps the teams to focus on the delivery. Yeah. But what about, our favorite scope change or requirements change? Like, how do you handle that in ShapeUp?
It happens. That's true. And it narrows down a little bit to politics. Obviously, you might have this one stakeholder who is a CEO. This is one of the hardest types of stakeholders, because, well, they are the ultimate person who makes the decision. Obviously, apart the investors and maybe the structure is different in the company. But I think it's a matter of politics within the company. So within a bigger company, it will be handled different than within a small company. It might happen that there is some third side of this experiment, like let's say there's a war. And that was something that really happened to me. We just had a war just next to our borders a few years ago. And, well, you need to adapt to it. So if you were building a feature that will help you get more customers, but you have a war and suddenly you will not get much more customers, then you need to prioritize another feature. And in ShapeUp, at this stage, we don't try to deliver this feature. If we see that it's no longer required, or if we see that we will be too late with it. Let's say our competition released something better, and we won't be, and we would need to update our pitch document looking at their product. So we should give a pause. I always said, because in Poland we have Bieszczady, so it's like mountains where people could go and disconnect. I always said, okay, let's take 2 days break in Bieszczady and we go back. Because this decision is very hard. And I will be honest with all of you that closing a project is always hard, because we will feel the sentiment, especially if this is us who delivered this pitch document. But this is business, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately. And if the scope changes too much, we just need to close the project because we will not deliver on the date. Small scope changes, I would say it depends on the company. We've been doing small scope changes. It's, again, you need to have engineering team to commit to those changes. So it's not like I'm a product guy. I just wrote down a new paragraph in the pitch document, and on the next sync up weekly, daily, I tell them, oh, guys, why haven't you done this? It's in the document. Oh, Konrad, you've just wrote it yesterday. I haven't told us. No, this doesn't work this way. You need to have the teams to commit. And I've been using word commit a lot. So another good word would be, you need this team to be empowered. And by empowered, I mean they are self-sufficient to solve this problem. So it's not like you drop them suddenly a third-party tool that they have to use and they have no experience of it. If you do it, you need to provide them a professional support from that company or other things, like to make it tangible for them. And empowered teams has as little as possible dependencies. So maybe there are 6 or 17 even engineering teams within your engineering department, and they will be codependent on each another. So those are the things you need to keep in mind, especially when you change scope, because it could make a problem for the other side.
Okay, and what steps should teams consider if they want to transition to using ShapeUp? Are there any prerequisites or initial steps that are crucial?
I think the first thing is that this change to ShapeUp needs to start within the roots of your company. So we've been talking about this empowerment, committing to the deadlines, and there are more. Like, for example, self-development could be one of these, transparency, ownership. So first of all, you need to see if really those values and attitudes are on the roots of your company. I've seen with my work with companies so many times that we see that a company says that their mission is everything for everyone everywhere. I even have this picture of a company poster having it on an event as a mission. We also seen that people provide information that inclusiveness is their value. But what value is something that makes your company unique. And being inclusive doesn't make your company unique, because on the other side, you are being inclusive or uninclusive, which is potentially illegal. So you are trying to compare yourself to illegal companies in general. So if we think about values, we should think about positive words. So we have, for example, transparent communication. And transparent communication can be good. And we have other comfort communication or people first communication, because not always you're gonna be on the same side. So when you are transparent, you use radical candor, and when you use people first communication, you are empathetic. You focus on how the other side will get your message and all other things. And both of these are good, but well, you need to pick one. Yeah, you can't be both at the same time. And like in this case, when you start with your values and attitudes, at least some of them should be this ownership, because when we have teams in ShapeUp, they need to take ownership of the decisions made. So those decisions need to be also made by them or by high level stakeholder who commits to those things and make sure the team has all the tools necessary. So if your engineering manager or head of CTO, head of engineering commits to some deadlines, and the team midweek tells him, hey, we have not enough people, then they are responsible. They need to take ownership. The CTO needs to take ownership for hiring more people or for getting more hands on board. And I think it needs to, as I mentioned, it needs to start within the roots of the company. So first of all, the company or people's mindset needs to be ready for it. And then obviously we have stages where we need to, first of all, have some maybe missionaries. Yeah, I really like how Marty Kagan says we should have missionaries, not mercenaries. Yeah, because many companies think about developers as mercenaries, but they should be a missionaries of your, company values and attitudes. But once we have missionaries also within the ShapeUp, so you get acknowledged. First of all, you should start with yourself to read the book. It's free. It's online also. It's, 100 pages, so it's relatively short. And share this knowledge with your colleagues, friends within the company, and see how they're feeling about it, and collect their feedback and try to work through your own ShapeUp version.
Okay, I really like what you said about missionaries and not mercenaries, you mentioned, yeah?
Yes.
And about the values, because that starts from that, yeah? And to have missionaries, you actually need to be transparent about the values or even like start thinking about it. So, to sum up this part a little bit and also like add kind of AI flavor, can you recommend any maybe AI tools that product teams might use to facilitate the transition to ShapeUp?
I think every tool right now calls themselves AI tools. But honestly, I would say it's not the best idea, because the thought of having tools is, first of all, you know what you are doing. So let's say when you start your career as a designer, you first of all need to understand how to design, what's UX, and then you learn Figma. Because if you first learn Figma and then you learn UX, that something is missed or mixed in this matter. So I would say AI tools are great once you know what you want to do specifically. And in transitions are always at times of change and uncertainty. There will be obviously tools that will help you, which are AI labeled, like Notion, because you can start keeping your documents in Notion or Google Drive with Google Docs having also AI features. But generally, I recommend starting with getting your knowledge first. So would it be reading the book about Shape Up by Basecamp? Would it be listening to some interviews? Maybe even this interview is a great example, but getting your knowledge straight. And then once you know which questions to ask to the AI, you are better in understanding its answers. Generative AI, as I would say, it's a great tool for domain experts, like generative AI, like this ChatGPT. Some time ago, we had a release of GPT-4o, so one of the latest models of OpenAI, so Cloud, Opus, and other. And those models have one thing in common, that you need to know what question to ask it, because they have this chat interface. Yeah? Now multimodal, you can record yourself, you can send pictures, but generally you still need to ask some question or pose something that this model completes.
Okay, that's also interesting because you mentioned Notion, and right now we are thinking like, what? Like Notion? This is just a note-taking tool. But yeah, to be honest, I'm also like using it heavily, and almost all tools we are using on a daily basis, whether it's Miro, whether it's Notion, whether it's Teams, Microsoft Teams, they all have AI incorporated already, and we might use that and not even like realize that we actually are using AI tools. But shifting gears from specific methodologies like ShapeUp to a kind of broader view, let's talk about leadership. So, Konrad, managing a team effectively, especially under a kind of new framework like ShapeUp, requires strong leadership skills. In your experience, and I'm again going to like touch AI point, how has adopting AI reshaped your approach to leadership? What new challenges and opportunities has it brought to your role as a leader?
First of all, you can focus more on human contact thanks to AI. Surprising, yeah? I would say a paradox. But I always had a problem of starting with tabula rasa, for example. So, we have an empty page. I'm writing the next speech document and it's empty. Obviously, once you write like 5 or 10 pitch documents, you know at least what to start with. By the way, we start with why, how Simon Sinek says. But I like to, as a leader, I grew myself to actually work with someone over problems. And sometimes I can cut this time by preparing already something for the meeting with them. So let's say we prepare some draft. It could be low quality, but at least you start with something. And this generative AI can help you generate this boilerplate, let's say. It can help you generate with like basic informations provided. Let's say you give it some brief of what you are going to do, what's your company, and it can start writing. And second thing that it changes for me is communication. So not the verbal one, but the writing one. Obviously, verbal one soon, but I will tell a little bit more here. So you can use generative AI to actually help you manage stakeholders, especially the problematic ones. So, there's this moment when you want to write this passive aggressive email, like we are like in the middle of a 6-week cycle or a 6-week sprint, and you have this one stakeholder that suddenly wakes up and says like, oh, why we are doing it? Like this person was on 6 meetings before we started delivering it, and they are still not aware why we are doing it or what we are doing. It's even more problematic because we can have common understanding of why we are doing something, but what's being done or what's being built can be different. And this is area where this generative AI or ChatGPT can help you. So you can write what you would like to send to this person and ask this ChatGPT to correct it to be not passive aggressive. Obviously, it works in a different way where you write sales mails, marketing copies, and ask it for proofreading. And thanks to this, you can get additional feedback before going, let's say, live or before sending it to stakeholders for their initial feedback.
Yeah, I like that idea because actually you're also learning like how you're writing your emails, yeah, and if they are like passive aggressive, you get the feedback from ChatGPT. And I know that some people will say like, "What? So right now we are going to use ChatGPT to write emails? Like people will stop learning?" No, actually, I think it's the opposite. The moment you start using that and you like gain more self-awareness on, oh, that would potentially hurt someone or sound passive aggressive. So next time you're writing your email, you don't have to use ChatGPT, or maybe after a couple of times, you start realizing how your communication has changed because you already like incorporated that kind of patterns in your behavior, yeah, in your actions. So I really love that idea. Thank you, Konrad.
Just not take it as an autopilot. So don't take what ChatGPT writes and place it and send it. Always proofread it. Make it your personal voice.
Yeah, definitely. That's the most important rule. We want our voice to be there. Yeah, we don't want someone's else voice to mimic ours. But leadership is not only about setting the direction, managing stakeholders, but also about supporting and developing your team. And given this AI dynamic nature and development, what are like some examples of AI tools that have significantly enhanced your like product development? I mean, the product team development or product management processes, so they are more supportive to the team you're working with.
Good question. The number of tools changes by day, I must say. One of the tools is Fireflies. So let's say we join a meeting and we usually had someone who was taking the notes. Now, Fireflies can take this out of your head and it can make the notes for your Google Meet, Zoom Meet meetings. Another alternative to Fireflies is Build Better. I've recently met their Spencer, their CEO. Build Better is strictly Fireflies, but for product managers. So it will capture the right insights because it's adapted to how we work, how product people work, what we need from those meetings, and it captures also the right feedback from the customers. Sometimes you can find like something notes or side notes that we could not capture because of, let's say, cultural difference. And such tools are marvelous with that because they are not human and they don't live their emotions and they don't live by their experience. So they are free of dogmas. They are free of kind of free of bias. But if you tell them to be free of bias, they will be. At least they will have this self-reflection on the technology. I think another tool, if I may, one of the first things I've been using, and it's already AI, is converting your handwritten notes to text. So I'm a person who uses heavy iPad. So I write a lot, I draw a lot. My handwriting is similar to, medicine doctors, I would say. So it's hard to read. And it helped to get those notes quickly. Obviously, one side is I write in the Google Documents or Notion what I've written in the handwritten, but the easier way is, to use technologies like OCR. So it converts the handwritten text into normal documents, and it's marvelous, I would say. By the way, you can use it with ChatGPT the version 4 vision, where you paste images and it tells you what's on an image, and it can read handwriting too.
Oh wow, I didn't know. I didn't know that yet. So yeah, probably worth trying how does it work and use these capabilities. And how do these tools that you're using contribute to the professional growth of product manager, of product leader you are?
As I mentioned, they help me focus on what's important. And everyone battles with imposter syndromes. And I will be honest, I have it myself. I have moments of doubt. Surprisingly, ChatGPT might be a good mental health coach. Obviously, in the matter that you understand what's happening, it's more like someone who pats you on the back and then says, "Hey, it's gonna be right." Hopefully, you have people who can do that, and you don't need ChatGPT, by the way. But it can help you spot such moments, especially if you go into like a longer brainstorming or longer discussions with this ChatGPT. It will learn. It will have more and more information about you, which might sound scary, but if they wanted to have this information, they can get it from your LinkedIn or somewhere else, and it will be better in helping with your decisions, with tough moments. And thanks to this, you can also focus on your role, on what's important for you. So maybe you have your calendar that you can integrate with generative AI, and it will be telling you, hey, your calendar is packed. Usually your meeting with Beata is prolonged by 15 minutes. So you might take that into account, because you like to talk to each other. And it can help you managing things that most of us don't like. I don't like managing my administrative side of a day, like handling calendar invites, handling cancellation, payments from customers, and all this stuff. And this is something we can delegate to this technology.
What about customers and customers' interactions and feedback mechanism? Can you elaborate on how AI can facilitate better that side of product management?
Yeah. So first of all, AI allows us to process vast majority of information. And I'm telling like libraries of information within seconds. And it's already be possible with even phones. So there's basic processing of information doesn't require us to have like a gaming computer. And thanks to this, we can have more data-oriented decisions. We can have more information about our customers because we can, for example, fetch 5 years of their activity on our platform with a click of the fingers. What's more, we can provide them with help 24 hours, 7 days a week, or at least until a human comes in and helps them. Most of people who listen to us probably had some bad experience with chatbots before even the ChatGPT era, or tried to resolve something on your bank phone line and face some serious chatbot issues. It changes, but still there's a human in the loop. Making it 24/7 for customers could be like a self-service, by the way. So they might be able to get feedback or get help by themselves. And with 24/7, it comes also with multilingual support. So if I'm not English native, so sometimes it might be easier for me to talk in my native language, especially if it's a stressful situation for me. So thanks to this, we could switch in the middle of the discussion to a different language. And live translation is something that's been with us for a bit already. I would say AI changes how our life looks like, but it started to change it a few years ago, and now we see it cumulative shift thanks to a growth of the technology and growth of the possibilities there.
Yeah. And about live translation, I'm actually thinking how my Korea trip looked like. Korean language is like completely, um, exotic, I would say, for me. So I was heavily using Google Translate and other like translating tools to actually be able to communicate. I even learned some words thanks to that.
Or
but
even
but yeah,
read signs, yeah, because signs would be problematic.
yeah. So I was making pictures and like translating that directly in a Google Translate or other tool. I don't remember which one I used, but mostly like Google Translate. Um, so it's definitely making our lives easier, and thanks to the technologies like that, we are actually closer together. We're closer to people, because before I wouldn't be able to have a conversation with someone who doesn't speak English, but thanks to that, I actually could have some nice conversations and just get to know people better that were nice to me or that wanted to talk with me. So yeah, that's something that we should remember about.
I would say it's like augmentation of ourselves, maybe not in a cyberpunk way yet, where we have, chips or Neuralink is already there, but in a way where we do things that we maybe dreamed of, maybe not. I've never dreamed of having a proper brand or LinkedIn because I was always too busy. And now with AI, I have more time for such things. I have more time to be at the gym 3 times a week because I can delegate some of those things to one of the cheapest employees on the world, I would call it.
So, moving beyond IT, you also manage a vineyard, which is quite fascinating. So, how have your experiences in winemaking influenced your product management strategies?
I would say it's actually the opposite. I would say that my product management skills affected my winemaking. So, winemaking is, I would say, art and science, and it's similar with product management. We require this creative problem solving in product management, and at the same time we need to make data driven decisions or be customer centric. So we need to take into account, I would say, science of product management. At the same time, with winemaking, we need to adapt with creative solutions to potentially a worse year. Like maybe we had less sun last year than we have this year, and we need to make adaptations to our recipes. We need to use our technical knowledge also to make it viable. I think the other thing is that monitoring consistently makes a change. So when I've been talking with other winemakers, they've been never working with IoT, so they haven't been using full-time monitoring 24 hours per 7. And I've been able to use my technical knowledge there to build like a monitoring system. Obviously, small scale, couple hundred of liters, but I am able to consistently monitor what's the temperature, and that's something we do as product managers. I remember times when I was a product manager and my landing page in a browser was QuickSight from AWS. So basically, all the metrics from the product. And last thing that comes to my mind is quality. Because with the grapes, you need to also think about the quality of specific batches. So if you want to create the best wine, you need to use the best grapes you have. And there's also the matter of the time variance in here. So you, for example, have only 1 hour before you harvest to start processing these grapes. Maybe this side of processing is different, but generally the quality is similar to team's quality, in engineering or product department. If you connect beautiful minds together, they create great products.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah, it was nice listening to you, especially as you're talking about the art and science and yeah, great minds brought together that can create a beautiful product. Um, are there any lessons from winemaking that apply to tech product development?
Actually, I see a few. So winemakers experiment a lot. And I wish product managers would experiment at least half how winemakers do. And there are like different methods, grape varieties, how we blend the grapes, because very rarely we have like a fine wine with just one grape variety. And every year we experiment as winemakers with our grapes to get better wine. Like we have contests, let's say, we can get like certificates and so on and so forth. With technology, I wish we would have more time to experiment with bleeding tech, new methodologies, designs, methodologies like shape up. So I wish that everyone listening here will find time this year to experiment with at least 2 or 3 of those. Maybe learning a new technology like generative AI, maybe trying out ShapeUp, but make it your learning, because it's a moment of success when you finish your experiment and see, okay, I've learned something, even though it was failure. It's always a learning and it's actually a success for you. So when I lead product teams and we start experimenting, I aim at 30% success rate. Because if we aim at 60, 70% success rate, we are taking safe bets. So we will not really innovate in that matter that's, making us unique on the market, especially right now with everyone using generative AI to code and to build products. To be unique, we really need to experiment, because this is where the best project might come out with. And one more thing is to focus on quality. And there's a small disclaimer. So if you are an early stage startup, no, you shouldn't probably focus on quality, but on quantity, how many features you build before you have like a product that has a market fit and enough buying customers. But generally, once you have a product that has this product market fit, it's time for you to think about something like product-led growth. So actually kind of like a quality of your product. How easily is it to be used or adopted by new users? And generally, high quality products meet customer needs better and are more appealing to our eyes, hence having more customers. Well, that's truth. And similar is with wine.
So, experimenting and focusing on quality, that are the two main lessons. I'm going to take those. And as we wrap up our conversation, what's one key piece of advice you would offer to product managers?
Never stop learning. So do your reading, experiment with new technologies. Take your time to read, um, understand the technologies you are integrating with. So before jumping into AI, read about AI. There are plenty of free materials. YouTube, you can ask some expert, join meetups, or even take the shortcut and take paid courses. But never stop learning, because the world around you is never stopping.
Yeah, yeah, it's always moving. So we need to follow up. Even like doing these like few small steps every day, it's still enough to keep up with what is going on. And
Yeah, I
what
really
about
like
you?
this. I really
Yeah,
like this. 1% better every day. 1% better, not 100%. 1% better every day.
yeah, 1% better. Yeah, exactly. So, what are you most excited about in your upcoming projects or collaborations, both in tech and winemaking?
Actually, it will be a tech project. So I'm working on autonomous AI avatars. Potentially, this could replace us talking in here. But the idea is like bringing multilingual contact with people at 24 hours per 7 with kind of human interactions in this. So I'm super excited because I don't, well, there's plenty of things that can go wrong there, apart the Terminator side, but the technological side is very experimental technology right now. And we have seen multiple fingers at hands, thanks to AI and different issues. So there will be plenty of experiments, plenty of bold bets, and yeah, it costs a lot also. Like licenses, subscriptions for this AI tool start to grow into like $hundreds per year.
Hmm, that's interesting. I need to read about it more. Um, but for those intrigued by your journey and eager to learn more, where they can best reach you online?
I think LinkedIn is the best place. On LinkedIn, by the way, you can find also my website, and there's a free meeting where you can let's just grab virtual coffee. It's called Let's Connect. So I always happy meeting new people, and yeah, let's chat.
Thank you, Konrad, for accepting the invite for our conversation. And yeah, I hope you're going to have exciting projects, collaborations, and hope to chat to you, maybe on a free coffee.
Yeah, it was great talking to you again. Very nice to be a guest here. So hopefully see you around and talk to you soon.
Thanks for joining me on another episode of Doing It My Way by Beata Matras. If you enjoyed this episode, please do not forget to subscribe. Remember, this podcast is a dynamic journey and your feedback is very welcomed. Connect with me on social media. I would like to hear your thoughts, questions, and topic suggestions. And stay tuned for upcoming episodes. And until next time, keep doing it your way.